Hi and welcome to Outdoor World Direct. Today we're going to take a look at the Vango Kapalua 550xl Elite Polycotton tent. So this is part of the Elite collection of airbeam tents from Vango. It has a polycotton fabric, which is a blended fabric of cotton and polyester. To achieve this, you have 35% cotton and 65% polyester. With this polycotton fabric, it's breathable. It's naturally more waterproof than a polyester fabric, so it's really ideal for those that are looking for a breathable tent that they can use in different climates. Really, the only downside to polycotton is the weight and the pack size. So the weight of this is 52.8 kilograms. The pack size is 82 centimeters by 54 centimeters by 54 centimeters. So with the Elite TC range of tents from Vango, you get a lot more features that you don't get from the entry and mid-level tents. So first of all, we've kind of touched on the polycotton fabric, and it's more durable, it's more reliable, and it should last longer as a fabric than polyester. The other great thing about polycotton is it's more adept in different climates. So if you're going onto the continent and you need something that's going to stay cooler in hotter conditions, polycotton can do that because it can breathe. So in hotter conditions it stays cooler. On the flip side of that, if you're an early season camper and you're out in the UK on cooler evenings when it's quite cold of an evening, it will also retain heat. So the versatility of polycotton is really helpful. It's going to last longer, it's more stable, it's more reliable, it's quieter in the wind as well. A lot of people don't realise that polyester rustles and is quite loud in the wind, whereas polycotton is a much nicer fabric noise-wise in the wind. You can't hear it as much. So TC is a great fabric, and it really is on pretty much all family Elite tents. It's the top fabric that we do now. You also have the super beams as well. Now super beams, there's two depth of beams from Vango. So in the airbeam range, they have either a 10 centimeter, which is typically on things like 70 denier or 150 denier polyester. And the reason that's on those ones is because they're lighter tents and the fabric isn't as heavy, so it only needs a thinner beam. But on these polycotton tents, which are quite heavy fabric tents, we need what's called a super beam. So that's a 13 centimeter depth beam. It's stronger. It can take the weight of this polycotton tent. Some of the other great features of the Kapalua, we have the webbing straps. These are all the way around the tent. So you don't have the cheaper, thinner guy lines. You get durable webbing straps, which are much stronger. They anchor at 2 points up at the top and in the middle, and that creates a nice solid structure once you do all these webbing straps out. We also have the side annex on this tent. This is really useful, versatile space inside the tent. Some people choose to use it as like an optional toilet, an emergency toilet, or you can use it for storing items as well, if you want to put like a cupboard or something like that in there. The last great feature really of this Elite collection is the smart roller bags. These smart roller bags, they're on wheels, so once they're out of the car, they're much easier to move around. That's really helpful because once you get onto the campsite pitch, it will need probably two of you just to take the tent out of the car and load it back in as well. But once it's out, you know, one person can easily move this around by using the wheels. The other brilliant thing about this is we have the smart packing system. When you're ready to pack your tent away, if you start folding it, a lot of people, that's where they go wrong when they're packing their tent away. They roll the tent up and they realise it's too wide for the bag. Well, this tent tells you the width to fold to with the smart packing system. So it tells you here that's the maximum width that you want to pack your tent to. So what you want to do when you roll this tent up is make sure that when you've folded it over, it doesn't exceed that width there, and then you can roll it straight into this bag. So that's really helpful and intuitive when you're packing the tent away. So the Kapalua is a free zone tent, and what I mean by that is we've got the porch area to the front, which we kind of class as a wet room because there's no ground sheet in this area. The tent is not supplied with a ground sheet for this area. You then have the sewn-in living space to the middle of the tent, and then you have the sleeping compartments to the rear. Now this front zone here, it can be enclosed off fully using this D-door, so you can zip this door to close it completely. Alternately, you can actually open the entire thing up as an open front canopy and roll it back against that beam there. So it just depends what the weather's doing and how you choose to use this door. This front porch zone is a great area for storage. If you've got wet clothes and muddy boots, that kind of thing, just to dry things out in this area or store things that maybe clutter the interior of the living space. So I've fully opened the front door now, and you can see this is a nice open space. It also allows me to show you some of the other features of this tent. So firstly, we have this dividing wall between the two compartments. Now on some tents you'll be able to completely remove this wall and get rid of it and have two open spaces together. However, on this one it is a fully solid dividing wall. You've got a large mesh window here. Again, this is backed by a zipped privacy curtain if you want to close that off. This is a mesh window to aid airflow into the tent to reduce condensation and help breathability. Your main door in to the tent is here on the right. This is what we call a D door because it is in a D shape and you have to step over to get in. So that's just something to be mindful of if you've got prams or wheelchairs, is that you've got a slight lip on the tent here. So sometimes younger children can trip on this, but they have really lowered these down to make them much more accessible so that you don't trip over them after a glass of wine. We also have a mobile mains entry point here, a cable access point. So if you're wanting to run lighting from the inside where your electric hookup will be, you can run it through this point here. On the front beam to my side here, we have the SkyTrack system on the beam. So if you're wanting to hang lighting from this beam, you can do so using the sky hooks, which is really useful. The tent comes with 10 sky hooks anyway. So if you've got some strip lighting that you want to hang in this area, you can do so using that. Okay, so taking a look at the interior of the tent now, there's a lot of features in here. Firstly, we have the sewn-in ground sheet all the way through. That fully encloses and seals this area off from the elements and the bugs. We have a window to the left and the right, both of which are backed by zipped privacy curtains. Underneath those windows there are mesh ventilation points. Once you've pitched the tent, you should always be keeping those ventilation points open to get some airflow into the tent. We have a door to my left. This is backed by, again, a mesh panel, so if you wanted to get more breathability in again, in the mornings you could open the cotton door and you could leave the mesh zipped so the bugs can't get in, but the air can get in and create a little bit more of a breeze. To my right we have the side annex. This has become really popular on most of the Vango tents now. It offers just a bit of storage space to the side of the tent. You can use it as an emergency, an emergency toilet. It could be used as a changing room because it's got a zip down door here. Again, another feature that you find on pretty much all of the Vango tents now is the tension band system. Tension band, if you get caught in bad weather, if you get caught in windy weather, hopefully you won't, but if you do, the purpose of this is that you've got one on either side. So you've got two straps and you've got one on this beam here and one on the middle beam here. And all these do is they just toggle into the roof panel, and then you can tension them to make them tighter. It creates a triangular structure throughout the tent and it helps brace the tent against side winds. So you only need to use that in windy conditions. After the winds kind of died down, you can take it away and get rid of it. We also have SkyTrack throughout the tent. So we have SkyTrack on this beam, and the front beam, which is out of sight of the camera. On the front two beams, SkyTrack only runs from one side to this side and it stops about here. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. It doesn't run down the legs of the beam on those two front beams. On this beam at the rear, it runs from the bottom left to the bottom right. And the purpose of that is this is where you're going to light the tent up typically, so that's where the most wires would be. And that corresponds with where the cable entry points are as well. So lastly we have the midnight inner bedrooms. So this is one large inner tent. It's designed to sleep up to 5 people in a 3 and a 2 configuration. As with most Vango tents, if it says it's a 5-man, you probably want to sleep 3 to 4 people and it's be more comfortable. The midnight inners are the darkest inners that Vango do, so you're going to get a longer night's sleep because you shouldn't be woken up as early by the sunlight in the mornings. Also, the same works on the evening time as well. Hopefully, if you're putting your kids to bed a bit earlier, hopefully they should be able to sleep through a little bit better because they're darker fabrics. So once you're inside and you zip them up, they're much darker inside than some of the standard inner tents. So with it being a midnight inner, you get zip dividers as well. So there's one divider in here to create a 3 and a 2, or you can just open that divider and you can have it as one large 5-person inner tent. Now the depth of this is 210 centimetres, so it's not one of the deeper bedrooms, which means if you've got a camp bed, they'll need to face that way. Other than that, you've got mesh ventilation points on the rear and to the sides, and you have mesh windows in the front here which are backed by a zipped curtain, so you can cover them up if you wish to. But because it's a darker bedroom, you should get a better night's sleep out of this than some of the standard bedrooms which have got no dark fabric at all, and early in the morning the light typically pours in and wakes you up. With these, they've made them much darker than they used to be, so hopefully it will eliminate some of that early morning light. So to very quickly recap, the Vango Kapalua 550xl airbeam tent. It's got a polycotton fabric which is versatile in different weather conditions. We've got super beams which are thicker, stronger beams. The tent is quieter in windy conditions because it uses the polycotton fabric. You've got full standing height throughout. You have a free zone design, so you've got the porch area, the living space and the midnight sleeping inners to the rear. Then you also have the side annex built on. You've got the wheeled roller bag. It's a great tent for the season that typically knows what they want from a tent. This usually wouldn't be a first-time camper's tent. It would be someone who has a lot of experience camping and wants a durable tent that they can use in very different ways. Thanks for watching today. If you've got any questions, please do pop them in the comments box.